like I was saying before it cut again, give me a second. So, like I was saying before it cut again, Izuku, being a child of color in Japan, which they don't have that many black people in Japan. So a lot of people tend to discriminate against him. Sorry, I'm really tired right now. So a lot of people tend to discriminate against him and think he's kind of dumb, which he's the smartest man in the world, so, and smarter than Nezu, by the way. So they're always surprised when he's so smart. So back to Demetrius. Dimitri, sorry, I said Demetrius. So Dimitri says, like, so what was the plan to introduce me to your family? And Izuku's like, man, my parents let me go out by myself at this point because they know I'm smart enough to avoid any trouble. So I'll just say I met your sister, which he has kind of met the guy's little sister at this point. Dimitri introduced Deku to his little sister, which they're kind of friendly, but she has like, but at the moment, Izuku's not trying to look for that relationship, but he will when he's 14. Anyway, so her quirk is a muscle enhancement quirk as well, but it's much stronger than Dimitri. Dimitri could punch down a wall with one punch. Let's say his sister's name is Naomi. Naomi, she doesn't have an enhancement quirk. Fuck that shit. Yeah, fuck that shit. She can control fire, so complete pyrokinesis. So she can burn her flames as hot as she wants, and she's completely immune to flames. There you go. And so her and Izuku met, and they talked a bit. They like each other, but not that way, at least not yet. So Dimitri's like, so what's the plan? And he's like, you know how I met your sister? And Dimitri's like, what's the point of what? Yes, and the point being, and Izuku's like, well, let's use her as a scapegoat, you know? And Dimitri's like, how? And Izuku's like, well, let's just say that I met her at the park, and sorry, y'all, I just had to do a little bit of a hating on my family. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. They're really loud, and I'm trying to do this, so, But anyway, so Izuku's plan is to say that him and Naomi met in a park, which his mother would understand because she's the only other, she's the only girl of color that he's met in his life. So she, so his mother would understand, like, him, what'd you call it, sort of bonding with Naomi. So then he's gonna say that he met Naomi's brother, like one day when he went to her house, and his mother's gonna ask, and this is all Deku explaining, right? So he's like, and then she's gonna ask me why I went to her house without her permission, and I'm just gonna say that I'm grown, which she's gonna say I'm not, and blah blah. It's gonna ensue into a bit of an argument. She's gonna tell me to continue, and then I'll just say that we became friends because we was bonding, and I just thought that you were a cool role model to look up to, since dad's not home that much. And then she'll feel sorry for me and understand our bond. And Dimitri looking at this, he just looks over and he's like, bro, you're some manipulator. And he's like, yeah, I know. People are easy like that. So one day Izuku comes home and he's with this big black dude, right? And his mother doesn't want to be racist, but like, big nigga, black, got tats, looks kind of young and troubled. So she's like, oh, Izuku, who is this? And she says that in like a kind of worried tone. And Izuku's like, "Oh, this is my friend." And his mother is thinking that this guy is like a groomer or some shit like that. She asks, "Oh, and where did you meet this guy?" And Mizuku tells the whole backstory, and everything goes exactly like he said, down to the last word. And basically, Dimitri is just looking at Izuku like, "Nigga, can you see the future or some shit?" And Izuku's like, "Nah, no, I can't. I just really good at reading people." And so his mother she's just curious to meet Dimitri's family. So you know, his mother asks him when they met though, and at this point Izuku he sees no point in lying, so he just says 3 years ago. And his mother's like, 3 years ago, nigga, I ought to slap your ass. And he's like, bruh, you've known these people for 3 years and still ain't introduced them to me. Like you could have introduced them to me if you know them for 1 month, bro. And basically, Dimitri is looking at Izuku and like nodding his head, and Izuku's like, "Well, I don't trust people easily, you know." And Dimitri just takes that to heart. He's like, "Damn, nigga, like I thought we was friends." And Izuku's like, "We are, but like, bro, she right here." And they're just doing this with their eyes, you know. And so, um, Izuku's mother was like really curious to meet them now, cause she's like, 3 years, nigga. He's been hanging out with a whole other family for 3 years. And she meets them. They're very nice people, including Naomi, which she likes and she thinks is gonna marry Izuku, which yeah. Anyway, and Dimitri has no problem with Izuku and his younger sister, you know, because Dimitri does see Izuku as a younger brother, but he also sees him as like a friend, but like not an he's not like he doesn't see him as one of those friends that he has to be worried about. He sees him as one of those friends that he can put his life in his friend's hand and still be like have a safe mind, like sound mind, you know. And so um, Izuku meets the family. Sorry, Inko meets the family. So does Hisashi. They get like a day off work. They spend the whole day with the family. The family do like a little barbecue in the back of the house, you know. Because at this point, Dimitri is just ranking in the cash, and he's just racking in the cash because Izuku pays him every month is, let's say, every month is half a mil. Actually, no, that's too much. Every month is, he gets, uh, nah, yeah, I'll just say half a mil each month, which he has huge savings. Like his savings are like in the, what do you call it? In the 50 million. And the only reason his savings are that low in comparison as to if he kept all his money to himself is because he helps out the whole community, not just himself, you know. And Izuku sees that he helps out the whole community, so he just slips in like an extra hundred thousand to his salary, sometimes, just to make sure that he's taking care of the whole community, you know. And so, you know, Dimitri is like very thankful for Izuku, and he thinks of Izuku like a brother, like I already said. Sorry, but anyway, so they meet the family, barbecue, like I said, and basically, uh, who is it again? Who am I gonna say? Inko asks, what you call it? She asks Dimitri, like, Dimitri, what do you do for a living? And Dimitri's very sketchy about it. He's like very, he plans his words carefully so he doesn't expose Izuku, you know. So he's planning his words carefully so he doesn't expose Izuku, you know. Like I was saying for the third time, plans his words out very careful as to not expose Izuku for the amazing success story that Izuku is. So um, instead of saying he works for Izuku, he just says, "I work for a very important man. He he holds stock in a bunch of companies, and he helps me. I help him with um, what do you call it? I help him with like manual labor, and I'm his only worker, because he's a very secretive man, and I'm his only worker, so he pays me very much, and because he's very generous, and Inco's like, oh, he has stock in companies. Like, what type of companies? Because I actually belong to one of the highest paying companies in the world, which her salary has been increased to 300 um, thousand a month. Sorry, sorry, no. Yeah, 300,000 a month. You know, because Izuku can't really increase her wage that much because he is the stockholder, but he's not the fucking CEO. He can't promote her to become the like manager of a department or something like that, because he has to sign off with the leader, and he doesn't like talking to them people because they're just greedy ass niggas that think they made it out the mud by themselves. So um, Izuku, hearing Dimitri say that he works for a businessman that has stock in a bunch of companies, he's like, ah, bro, you fucked up. And he looks at Dimitri and he's like, you fucked up, bro. You done fucked up. And he's like, you know you done fucked up, right? And Dimitri looks at him and he's like, yeah, but you know. He's like, it is what it is. And just like short shoulder nudges him. He's like, it is what it is. And she's like, okay, what type of companies? And basically, Dimitri names out all 10 companies, including both of the ones that Hasashi and Inko work at. And Inko and Hasashi are like, oh shit, we work at those companies. Like, do we know this person? And Dimitri is like, you could say that. And Izuku looks at him like, nigga, help me. Help me, nigga. He's like, bro, that's your second mistake. So he just like shoulder budges him a little bit. He's like, bro, shut the fuck up. And Dimitri like, yeah, you might know this guy, but you know, like I said, he's a very secretive man. So it depends on if you're in his inner circle or not. And I can surely say I'm the only one he trusts with his secret. So and then he looks at Izuku for like one split second, and his parents are like, "What the fuck is that about?" And then um, so Ingo's like, just for the fun of it, like, how much do you get paid a month? Because she's trying to like flex her money. Her and Hasashi, they earn the same amount, so she's just trying to flex their money, which her and Hasashi's money combined, that's like that's 700,000 a month. So technically, Izuku's family, Izuku's whole family makes more than Dimitri's, but Dimitri's still pretty close. But anyway, he's like, I make 500,000 a month. Just like 500,000 a month, nigga. She's like, what kind of manual labor gives you 500,000 a month? And Dimitri's like I told you, he's very secretive about his work, and he's a very generous man. And then he looks at Izuku for that split second again, and only Inko notices this time, and she's like, "Yeah, you gotta talk to him about that shit." And so they leave, they say goodbye, all that. And of course, they take 1 hour to leave, like all black families. When they get back home, Hasashi, he has to go back to work. He has to go to his desk to fill out some paperwork or some shit. And but before he can go, before Hasashi can go to his desk, Inko goes to Izuku and she's like, "What was that about?" And Izuku's like, "What do you mean?" And um, Inko is like, whenever Dimitri mentioned this mysterious man, he always looked at you like, what was that about? And Izuku's like, nah, like, he just trusts me very much. And Inko's like, don't lie to me, boy. I know when you're lying. And is just behind Hazashi is just behind her, like, and he just like flexes the belt like with the demon mask thing, you know. And Zuko's like I said, I am like he's like I said, he just trusts me. And Hasashi just like cocks his hand back with the belt, and he's like, "Boy, don't lie to me." And he's about to hit Izuku, right? Izuku's like, wait, I'll tell you. And he goes like, "That's much better." And she says that in the like most demonic voice ever. She's like, "That's much better." And she looks at Izuku and she's like, "So explain." And Izuku's like, "Well, I'm that mysterious man." And he said it under his breath. He said, "I'm that mysterious man." He said it under his breath. "I'm that mysterious man." And basically they're like, "What?" And he's like, "I said I'm that mysterious man." And they're like louder. He said, "I said I'm that mysterious man." And basically, Hisashi, he's like, "Oh, you play, huh? You playing?" Belt. And he basically, the thing that parents do, they just smack it on the couch, you know. Hasashi just smacks it on the couch. So, Izuku's like, "I said I'm that mysterious man that's very generous in giving him 500,000 a month." And his parents are like, "What?" And they start laughing. They're like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he's like, "I knew you wouldn't believe me. I'm going to my room." Basically, Hasashi's like, "Bro, the disrespect." And basically, Hasashi goes and he just like, the thing that they do in anime where you get punched in the head and then you have like the lump. So he does that to Izuku. And Zuko's like, I just I didn't want you guys to find out this way, bro. Like, and they're like, "Find out what?" And Zuko's like, I have a whole digital empire that earns me billions a month and stuff. And they're like, "Billions a month? Like, what is you talking about?" He's like, "I'm the richest man in the world." And he's saying this all while like snobbing and crying and shit. And he goes like, "Don't be ridiculous. Tell us the truth." And he was like, that is the truth." And Inko being a little bit like devious and wanting to just embarrass Izuku, she's like, "Well, do you have any proof?" And Izuku's like, "Yes, I do." And he goes to like this. I'm gonna say that his parents got him like a little, what do you call it, laptop. And I'm gonna just put this in as an inclusion. Throughout the years, his parents have been like really surprised that he isn't super spoiled. Well, he's not spoiled at all, actually. He doesn't never asks them for anything unless it's like a computer, which lasts him a long time or something. And he has a phone, but he doesn't have that many friends and stuff. And basically, he goes to his computer, and his dad is like, "What are you gonna do with that?" Like, cause his dad, in his mind, his dad locked all the computers and stuff so that it would be like all child friendly and stuff. So, in Asashi's mind, all the computers are child friendly and safety locked, so Izuku doesn't go searching for porn or something, right? And Izuku goes to like a website where only adults are allowed, by the way, and which is his which is where you go to invest in stuff. And what do you call it? And Izuku shows his mother and father, like, he goes to that website and his father is like, how are you able to access this website? I safety locked it, blah blah blah. I child proofed it. And Izuku's like, "Well, I hacked it." And his father's like, "What? I didn't raise my son to be a fucking hacker." And he's like shouting at Izuku, and Izuku's like, "Don't worry. Like, I've been doing this for like a long time. I've been doing this since I was 5." Which I was just like, "What? Since you were 5? Don't be ridiculous." He's like, "You can do it now." He's like, "You're probably just bluffing." And then he looks at the investments and he sees all the 10 companies and he sees 1 billion per month from each. So he gets 10 billion a month, right? So because he gets 10 billion a month, I don't even know if I'm like 10 billion. He gets 120 billion per year, which damn, nigga, which um that's like after taxes and stuff. That's like after taxes because he has a whole different identity, you know. That's like after taxes, like and basically those millions have been used, those billions have been used to invest in other companies, which he doesn't have on that website. So he's invested in other companies as well. So that means he makes more than 120 billion per year. He makes like a trillion a year. You know, he's like he's the world's first trillionaire. So he makes like a trillion a year, and it's been 5 years. So he has 5 trillion in his bank account, which may not seem like a lot because I'm saying five, but a trillion is 1,000 billions. Just think of that. But anyway, like I was saying, he shows the accounts. They're like, how is this possible? And he's like, he's like, I'm just really smart. And they're like, don't lie to me, you know, doing the whole shit. And he's like, I'm a super genius and I have photographic memory and I'm really smart and I started those companies and I invested in those companies when they were really small and I hacked websites to put up ads and so that the companies would grow and I made deals for the companies and stuff and basically all those companies are they're pretty much mine but not mine at the same time and I made all of them and the only reason you two have such lucrative jobs is because of me. The only reason Demetrius gets 500,000 a month is because of me. And and he's like, and there's some other things that I can't tell you. And they're like, tell us. And he's like, no, that he's like, no. Like I've told you things that I could tell you that I didn't have to. But there's some things that people should not know about me except for Dimitri. And they're like, you trust Dimitri more than your own family? And he's like, yes, because Dimitri is my. He's like, he's my stand-in. He's the person who deals with packages and stuff with rare minerals for my inventions. And they're like, you're an inventor, bro. And they're like, so what's your invention company? And he's like, I don't have one. I don't invent stuff for people. I invent stuff for myself. They're like, that's kind of selfish. And he's like, yes, but still, whatever. And he's like, do you believe me now? And they're like, so the only reason we have our jobs is because of you. He's like, yeah, like nigga, I orchestrated my whole life. Don't you get that? And basically from that day on, they're just like, let's just be grateful for our son. They're just like super proud of him and shit, but they don't know how to feel because they're the ones relying on their son instead of the other way around. But he was like, don't worry about it. Like, it's not like you're leeching off of me or anything. And he looks at Hasashi and he's like, Father, you weren't in my life for 7 years. And Hisashi starts looking down and he's like, no, don't look down. That wasn't your fault. That was because of work. That's why I got you some work that would earn money and let you stay at home at the same time. So that way you could spend time with me and you didn't have to be overseas, you know? And he looks at Inko and he's like, and mother, you were gaining weight because of all the stress and work that you had. You didn't have time to work out. So I got you a job that would adjust to your needs. That's the only reason you have these jobs. It's not because I took pity on you or anything. Like, it's because you're my parents and you deserve the best life. And after that, you know, they cry, they go in his arms, they're like, Izuku, you didn't have to do this for us, blah, blah, blah. But he's like, yeah, I kind of did. He's like, yes, I kind of did. Because it would be conspicuous, me having luxurious things when you don't earn as much money as I do. And they're like, okay, damn, nigga. Because they're like multi-millionaires, you know? They have like, you know, they have 50 mil in the savings each. Like, what do you call it? Like Demetrius. because they don't contribute to the community as much as him. So altogether, they have 100 million in savings, and they have passive income and all that. So they're just rich, rich. And so, um, you know, it's pretty much kind of it, but not really. So time skip, which I said he's 10 right now. So his mother and father are just fine with him, and they just think of him as a grown man. Because if you think about it, the responsibility of a parent is to nurse their child until their child is responsible mentally and physically and stable enough to go out into the world and become their own person. And Zuko has done that since he was 5, and he orchestrated his whole life since he was 5. So 5 years of his life has just been him doing everything, you know. And so they're like, yeah, we can trust him. So what? And basically, after like a month of them absorbing the shock of their son, well, like I was saying, um, a month later, we skip to a month later, and Izuku and his family are chilling, and basically Izuku starts to bring it up out of nowhere, and he's like, "What do you think about the vigilante Iron Man?" And his father and mother have very constricting, they have contradicting opinions about Iron Man, right? Because his mother, since I'm gonna say I'm pretty sure the Hero Society started from Japan and they reinforce it so much in Japan. I'm gonna say that his mother, since she has that traditional heroes should be heroes, not vigilantes type thing. She's like, no, I don't like him. She's like, I don't like him. I know what he's doing is right. I know he's trying to do the right thing, but that doesn't excuse that he's using his quirk, unauthorized by the cops and stuff, and he's still a vigilante, which means he might as well be a villain. That's what she says, and he's like, interesting. And then he looks at his father, and he's like, well, he's a hero. Like, it doesn't matter if he's a fucking vigilante or not. Like, it just matters that he's saving people, you know. And then him and Inko have this whole intellectual battle for like 3 minutes. They're just talking about this guy, right? So when it starts to deviate off into another conversation, Izuku's like, okay. So how would you feel if I told you that Dimitri is Iron Man? They're like, what? Dimitri is Iron Man? And Izuku's like, yeah. And Inko's like, what? We should report him to the police, blah, blah, blah. Izuku's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's Dimitri. And Inko's like, oh, right. Sorry, I got caught up in the moment. And Izuku's like, anyway, me and Dimitri are Iron Man, to be precise. And they're like, what? No. They're like, no, you don't go risking your life and stuff like that. And he's like, no, I don't. That's Dimitri. I'm the one that made the suit. And they're like, what? You made the suit? And he's like, yeah, like, I made it when I was 7. They're like, you made a suit. They're like, but that's just armor, right? He uses his actual quirk when he's inside the armor. And no, actually not. His mother's like, so what about the suit? Like, he's using his quirk in public, blah blah blah. And Izuku's like, actually, he has never once used his quirk in public while using the suit. And his mother's like, what? Then how can he fly and have superhuman strength and shoot out blasts and stuff? Izuku's like, well, that is the suit that I made. It's an energy suit that allows him to shoot off blasts from his hands and chest and feet and the hands and feet allow him to fly. The armor is for protection, and the titanium alloy or the minerals and metals that I mixed to make the plates of armor and stuff, They're very durable and so allow him to lift heavy objects without breaking bones or anything, like, and he doesn't have a restriction. And he goes like, but he's still putting people's lives in danger because he doesn't know what he's doing. And Izuku's like, nah, he knows what he's doing. He's been at it for 3 years, and nobody's caught him. Nobody's seen his face. Nobody's even injured him except for All Might. And they're like, All Might. They're like, he's fought All Might before? And Izuku's like, no, but All Might did get off a punch one time, which broke the armor and shattered his left elbow. And basically Inko's like, what? You're like, this is why he shouldn't do it. It's dangerous, blah blah blah. Even heroes are going after him. And Zuko's like, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. I'm gonna take up the mantle of Iron Man. And now both of his parents are like, what? And his father's like, I'm completely against this. And and Izuku's like, no, bro. Like, afterwards, he's like, after I reveal myself to the world, one, and I join UA, I will convince the principal of UA to allow me to join as Iron Man because I'm the one who built the suit and I'm the one behind the suit and stuff like that. And I'll just convince him to allow Demetrius to become a hero. And they're like, all right, but your plan better work, um, or else you will be known as an aid to a criminal. And he's like, nah, my plan would work. And basically, Ingo's like, how do you know that? And he's like, because my plan with you worked. And Ingo's like, what? And he's like, remember, orchestrated 5 years of my life, plus, that little lie I told about how I met Demetrius. And they're like, how did you meet Demetrius? And he's like, well, to be specific, I went on Craigslist. And they're like, you met this nigga on fucking Craigslist? And he's like, no, not, I went on Craigslist and I found a site to meet people, which was trustworthy-ish. And they're like, ish. This whole time, they're just taking in information after information. He's like, well, I met him online. I got to know his character, see if I could trust him. And I invited him over to our house, and his mother flips out. She's like, "You invited a strange nigga to our house?" And she doesn't say nigga. She's like, "You invited a strange man to our house?" And Izuku's like, "Don't worry, I had like laser guns pointed at him and shit." And at this point, his parents just don't doubt him. They're like, "Oh, okay." Which, to be honest, he didn't have shit pointed at him. He just trusted Demetrius, and if shit went south, he had like this little taser that he made, and the taser just fit on like the palm of his hand. So if Demetrius tried to grab him, he could just tase him. So his parents were like, "So you met? When did you meet him?" He's like I said, I met him when I was 7. He's like, so, um, so 2 years later, that's when I met Naomi. And then a month after that, I met his family. And then a year after that, that's when I told you about him. They're like, so it was 2 years of just you and this man doing God knows what. And he's like, yeah, we was building suits and expanding our empire and getting paid. And Inko at this point is like, you just a whole nigga by yourself, huh? You just a whole man. Like, I don't need to teach you shit. Like, bro, she's like, bro, you might as well buy your own house. And he's gonna be like, I kind of have. And they're like, what? At this point, that's all they can say. That's just the only word they can say to express themselves. They're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I have a huge ass mansion in he's like, I have a huge mansion in an island. Fucking I forgot where I left off. So I'm pretty sure I'm out of breath again. Because these niggas keep making me do shit for them. So anyway, like I was saying, he says he bought a mansion. They're like, where? And he says, it's some tropical island off the coast of Japan. It's amazing, really. They're like, you have your own island? He's like, yeah, I'm a trillionaire, remember? And they're like, how much does this island cost? And he's like, 500 million. And he just like hides it under his breath, like, how much? And he's like, 500 million. And basically, at this point, you know, Izuku made made his parents' account 500 million as well, just because he just like transferred some money from his account to theirs. And they're like, 500 million, that's our whole life savings. And Izuku's like, yeah, but I wanted an island, bro. Like, that's where I'm gonna keep my main base and stuff. And they're like, so how is a mansion there? And he's like, I built it there. They're like, you built it? He's like, no, I sent like workers. And they're like, when did you do this? And he's like, a year ago. And at this point, they're just not surprised at anything. They're like, okay, our son has everything in the world. They're like, he could be ruling the world. We wouldn't care because we already know he's amazing. And at this point, they're like, you can do everything you're saying you're gonna do. Just make sure you be safe. And he's like, safety is my middle name. Why'd you think I have the armor? And they're like, fuck nigga. So, time skip 4 years. And throughout these 4 years, Izuku's been making armors. He's developed nanotechnology. Now he's developed to a point where he can be proud of it. And this is the last day of middle school, which here, who do you call it? The teacher in the fancy school that Izuku is going to, with Momo and them, throws the papers in the air just like Bakugo's teacher. I don't know why, he just does it. He's like, who am I kidding? You all want to go to the hero course. And everybody starts using their quirks except Izuku. Izuku's just looking out the window. And the teacher's like, actually, we have four people in our class that are applying for UA. And the teachers and Bakugo, Todoroki, Ida, and Momo are like, who the fuck would apply for UA? These peasants can't do nothing. Their quirks are weak. And then the teacher says Momo, Shoto, and Ida. And he's like, never mind. He says those names and then he says, and Izuku Midoriya? And he says it like kind of like a question mark, and Izuku's like, yeah, that's my fucking name, bro. And he's like, yeah, that's my fucking name. Keep it out your fucking mouth, bitch nigga. And he says it that exact way. Because in these 4 years, he doesn't have to sneak out to go meet with Dimitri as much. So he's just hanging out with Dimitri every single day. So he just has the same mentality as Dimitri, which is, fuck everybody else. I'm just me. Let me just be me. Like, I'm rude to people, and that's okay because I'm me. Type thing. And everybody starts laughing. They're like, what? You quirkless loser? Like, you're not gonna go to UA. What quirk? You don't even have a quirk. You're just smart. And he's like, alright, bruh. Because, like, at this point, Izuku knows he's at the pinnacle of cracking something, but he doesn't know what it is. So he's just focusing all his mind on trying to figure out what it is. And he's not even paying attention to anybody around his surroundings, which he has learned every single type of martial arts in the world, like Taskmaster, So at this point, he has the analytical abilities of Sherlock Holmes. He doesn't use them very often, but he has the analytical abilities of Sherlock Holmes and the fighting style of Sherlock Holmes too. The same one that Robert Downey Jr. played, So he could easily dismantle anybody in his class, including Shoto, Momo, and Ida, with his bare hands. So after class, they go up to him. They're like, Deku, you quirkless nerd. Like, how dare you apply for UA? I'm kidding. So Shoto says that he's like, you quirkless nerd, like, quirkless loser. How dare you apply for UA? Like, with the same as us. And Momo is kind of a bitch, but like, she's sneaky about it. So she's like, Todoroki, don't go so hard on him. It's not his fault that he's a quirkless quirkless, useless piece of shit. And he's like, no, it is his fault. It is his fault. And all quirkless people should die. Blah blah blah. And this one, Ida's not a self-righteous or a righteous at all guy. He's just a piece of garbage. And basically, everybody else in the UA is going to be a piece of garbage. And Izuku just stands up and he's like, "Shut up, you nincompoops, fam." And he says this, and and he's like, "Shut up, you nincompoops." And he just like, he just goes out of the classroom. And when they try to get him, he's just gone. So I'm gonna say he still has to take the bridge just because I want to. So he goes under the bridge, and when he goes under the bridge, the sludge villain still comes to like attack him, right? But before the sludge villain can attack him, like I said, pinnacle of nanotechnology at this point. So Jarvis, which he has developed in the time skip, Jarvis is like, danger detected, and Mizuka's like, okay. And then when he looks behind him, there's just a massive nanotech shield protecting him from the sludge monster, And Izuku's like, capture mode. And all of a sudden, all of the nanobots just like fuse together and capture the sludge villain to a little ball. And Izuku's walking away, which All Might comes, and All Might goes up to Izuku. He's like, young man, have you seen a sludge villain around here? And Izuku's like, yeah, it's in this ball. And All Might's like, what? He's like, did you use your quirk? Because you know that's against the law. And Izuku's like, no, I just have a very good technology. And All Might's like, oh, okay. He's like, how do I release the sludge villain from this thing? And Izuku's like, He's like, when you get to the police station, just like tell the nanobots to dispel, and the sludge villain should be released, and the nanobots and the material will come back to me. And All Might's like, come back to you. And he starts laughing. He's like, that's a very funny joke, young man. Because the society of my hero might be advanced to the point where they have like flying cars and shit, but not advanced to the point where they've developed nanotechnology that can stitch itself back together and stuff. So Izuku's like, nah, it's not a joke, fuck nigga. It's gonna come back to me. And he's like a real person. He's like he's not a bot. He doesn't worship All Might at all. Because he's had many run-ins with All Might, and he just thinks All Might is a self-righteous piece of annoyance that should just mind his own business. So he's like, alright, bro, just take this and just go. And All Might in his head is like, strange young man. And he just jumps off, right? And no, there's no sludge villain incident because I'm gonna say because Izuku's thing, his nanotechnology is very advanced. Actually, no. So let's say one of the nanobots starts developing, and Izuku was developing the consciousness for Ultron, but I'm gonna nip that disaster in the bud. So he starts developing the consciousness for Ultron, right? So the AI for Ultron, and the AI of Ultron infects a single nanobot, which is what it can do at first. So infects a single nanobot, and that nanobot infects the rest, and they return to Ultron. And that's when the sludge villain gets out, which All Might's like, what is this? And Izuku instantly gets alerted by Jarvis, and he's like, virus detected, Ultron out of control, blah blah blah. And Izuku's like, I knew this shit would happen. He's like, I'm not so dumb. And he's like, well, we better fucking kill Ultron right now. Which he had an antivirus that can kill any computer virus or electrical virus or physical virus in general. It could just kill any virus in general, like straight from the root, if just in case this happened. So the AI for Ultron, he puts the antivirus inside of it, and it just spreads like wildfire into the nanobots, which then the what you call it, the nanotechnology starts rushing back to the sludge villain, but it's too late because what do you call it? The sludge villain has already taken a hostage, and Bakugo has an explosion quirk, so it's blowing the nanotechnology away, thinking it's the sludge villain, and the nanotechnology can't get close because they have to compress the sludge villain into a tiny ball. So um so the sludge villain literally needs to be compressed, right? So if they compress the sludge villain along with Bakugo's gonna fucking die. And you're gonna start asking yourself, if it's nanotechnology, why couldn't it just go around the sludge villain only? And I have a simple explanation for that. They need Izuku to give them actually they need Jarvis to give them complete instruct orders. And right now, the what you call it, the nanobots are kind of mindless drones, just who are just able to follow one simple command, which is capture the sludge villain, which Izuku gave them, which Jarvis isn't a near enough proximity to insert his consciousness back into the nanobots. So Izuku gets there, Jarvis inserts the consciousness into the nanobots, and basically he compresses the sludge villain again into the little ball. And the heroes try to get the little ball, but the little ball goes flying towards Izuku. And the heroes are like, "There must be another villain, blah blah, grab him. He has the sludge villain. They're trying to escape, blah blah blah," making mad assumptions, you know. And so All Might comes out of the mix. He's like, "No, this young man has actually captured the sludge villain. He did it before." Um, and then the heroes are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, blah 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 blah." And Zuko's face is kind of on the camera a little bit, but they can't really see his full face. So his cover ain't blown yet, but his parents can tell he's on the news. They're like, "Fucking hell, is he gonna do it now?" Which no, he's not. So what do you call it? All Might is like, "Young man, I thought you said this containment unit was safe. Why did it glitch and let the sludge villain go?" And Izuku's like, "Oh, it turns out that one of the artificial intelligences that I was working on, it developed an evil will of its own." And All Might's like, "It can do that?" And Izuku's like, "Yeah, developed an evil will of his own." And basically it went off the programming, which was a good thing but a bad thing also at the same time. Like, it went off the programming, and what I'm saying to you is basically it was a glitch. It won't happen again. So but just in case, go to the police office quick. And All Might's like, "Yes, yes, God, I have you, I have you." And he jumps off, and Izuku just said that because he wanted All Might off his tail. It's not because he wants All Might to, it's not because he's actually worried about his technology going out of whack. It's just because, he's worried. He's worried All Might will want to keep talking to him and shit. He's like, "Fuck that shit." So he's walking home, and All Might sees something. It's not the hero spirit acting without your body moving your body moving without you telling it, blah blah blah. Not none of that bullshit. It's just Izuku's coolness, his demeanor, that makes everybody feel either safe if you're his friend or scared if you're his enemy. And that aura is exactly like All Might's, but it's just a little bit more aggressive, you know? It needs to be refined. That's what All Might thinks. And he thinks that if Izuku had his quirk, which he thinks Izuku's quirk is like a technopath thing, and he's like, since the world is technically controlled by technology these days, like, and he's an inventor, if I gave him my quirk, he'd be able to invent so many things to help humanity. But at the same time, he's like, but do I really want to give it to him? And he's like, I need to confirm his quirk first. And so slides. He slip and slides through the streets trying to find Izuku, and then he does find Izuku, walking into a pretty prestigious neighborhood, which is like, damn, this nigga lives here, and like he must come from a rich fucking family or something. And so, sorry if my voice is a bit shaky. It's just I'm kind of cold at the time because these niggas won't let me go in the fucking bathroom. But anyway, I'm a bit cold at the time, so at the time of this recording. So he's walking up the street, all my streets around the corner, and Izuku's like, okay, what do you want? Because he's trying to be respectful, because it is the #1 hero, the symbol of peace, you know? So he's trying to be respectful. He's like, what you want, bro? Like, just, what do you want? And All Might is like, um, I believe you will become a wonderful hero with your quirk. And Izuku's like, I'm gonna cut you off right there. I ain't got no motherfucking quirk, nigga. And All Might's like, what? Then, and he's like, then what about the little nanotechnology things, that liquid metal thing? And Izuku's like, those are little tiny microscopical robots that I made. And All Might's like, and you control them with your mind, right? And Izuku's like, nope, I have an AI doing that. And All Might's like, and you made that with your quirk? And Izuku's like, nope, completely quirkless, no power whatsoever. And All Might's like, well, then, do you want to become a hero? Cause, and he's like, yes. And he says it in the same tone as All Might, just mocking him. And All Might's like, oh, okay. And his mind is like, damn, this nigga is just cold, huh? Just doesn't care. He's like, anyway, I see something in you that I like, and I would like you to become my successor. And he's good, like, successor. And All Might's like, yeah, like, I can pass down my power, my quirk, and I would like you to have it. And Izuku immediately is like, well, I need to know all of the properties of your quirk before I take it. And All Might's like, but my quirk can't be studied because you need DNA and stuff you need permission from the user to pass it down to the next, and you need DNA and stuff. And Izuku's like, that can be arranged. And basically, All Might's getting entranced with this conversation with Izuku, because like I said, makes you feel safe. Then, poof, turns into the Small Might, and Izuku's like, what the fuck? He's like, bro, who is you? Like, he's like, who is you? Where's the buff dude? And All Might's like, it's me, kid. I just have this, and he explains the whole liver injury and stuff. And he's like, damn, that's grim, bro. He's like, all right. I think I can fix you up, though. And All Might's like, what? Give me a second, actually. All Might is like, what? You can fix me up? And Izuku's like, yeah. He's like, hell yeah, I can fucking fix you up, nigga. And All Might's like, what do you mean? Like, all doctors with the most amazing healing quirks have tried to heal my wounds, and it's not worked. I've tried plastics. I've tried many surgical procedures. It hasn't worked. And he's like, but have you tried my procedures, though, nigga? And he's just saying this like with open eyes. He's like, have you tried my procedures, though? And All Might's like, no, but I don't think you can match up to seasoned veterans of medical science and stuff. Izuku's like, science in general, that is just my profession, okay? Science. And Izuku's like, well, don't worry, I'll get you healed up. Because as soon as Izuku unlocked memory of Ultron, which was today, which he hears that Ultron is rebelling, and he unlocks the memory of Ultron, blah blah blah. And then he just unlocks all of the memories of Tony Stark up until the snap, because I want him to, just because I want him to. And Stewie's memories have already been unlocked, except for all of Stewie's memories except for the time machine. So all time machine memories are fucked. So as soon as he unlocked Iron Man's Infinity War nanotechnology knowledge, he unlocked Rick's portal gun knowledge. I'm gonna say it works like this. He unlocks Stewie's memory, except for the time travel, because time travel and multiverse travel is what Stewie has, and Rick has multiverse travel. Iron Man was the most basic out of all of them, so he unlocks Iron Man first. And then he unlocks Stewie, which I'm gonna say he unlocks Stewie like when he was 10. He unlocked Stewie, except for the time travel ones, which he still doesn't know what's missing from Stewie's memory, but he's starting to piece it together. And then he unlocked Rick's memory, and since he unlocked the portal gun memory, he unlocked all of it. But he doesn't have the same attitude as Rick. He's just a cocky, confident person. And so he's like, "Yeah, I can heal you." And they go back to his house, which is a big house actually. Give me a minute. I'll be back in a moment. So like I was saying before this, right? So Izuku tells All Might that he can heal him, right? So All Might's like, okay, I'll give it a shot, because at this point his power is starting to leave him quicker and quicker, because the injury is a bit worse in this one. So they go back to Izuku's home. All Might meets Izuku's parents, and then All Might says, "What about the healing?" Izuku's like, "Bro, you can't just be with my parents and let them be proud of me for meeting the number one hero for like one moment, bro." And I was like, "That's fair, that's fair." And then after that, Izuku's like, "Mom, Dad, I need to take All Might to my lab," and his parents are like, "Oh, okay. Is Dimitri picking you up?" And Izuku's like, "Yeah, he should be around here like 3, 2, 1." And then the doorbell rings, and he's like, "There he is." And he opens the door, and Dimitri's there. They do the little black people handshake, you know. And All Might's looking at this, he's like, "Damn." And he gets into the car with Izuku and Dimitri. They go to the lab. All Might gets there, and they have all the Iron Man suits hidden. That's why it took so long. It wasn't because Izuku wanted All Might to meet his fucking parents. He doesn't give a fuck about All Might, because he needed to hide the Iron Man suits until his announcement. So All Might goes to his lab. He sees this bunch of high tech shit he's never seen in his fucking life. And All Might's like, "How did you get all of this high grade technology?" And Izuku's like, "That's simple. I made it." And All Might's like, "What? Is that like your quirk?" And Izuku's like, "No, like I told you, I have no quirk. I'm just very, very smart." And All Might's like, "I bet I know somebody smarter though." And Izuku's like, "Oh yes, Nezu." And All Might's like, "How do you know about Nezu?" And he's like, "You could say me and him are um, acquainted." So let's have a flashback again to when Izuku is 12 years old. When Izuku is 12 years old, Nezu hears word of a hacker that nobody is able to take him down. And this hacker was like, he was basically taking money out of corrupt politicians' pockets and transferring it over to a community account, which was basically broken and poverty-ridden communities which needed the funds, and nobody was able to catch him. So Nezu gave it a try. Nezu failed 100 times. It was like a game of chess. It was like Nezu was playing checkers and Izuku was playing chess. Or better yet, uh, Nezu was playing checkers and Izuku was playing Call of Duty. He was trying to murder that man. So Nezu never figured out who the hacker was, and he never was able to beat him. And all of the funds from the corrupted men were taken and given to the foundations for the community. So It's like, you could say we've met. And Izuku's like, and All Might is like, how did you meet Nezu? And Izuku's like, it's a complicated situation. And this whole time, All Might's just seeing Izuku use all these contraptions and basically these miraculous looking devices, you know, and they're all like doing something to a certain um I'll say a certain black liquid because I want the liquid to look untrustworthy. So it's doing something to this black liquid, and the liquid looks like kind of gooey or something. And so by the end, and then an hour passes, and the liquid is finally ready. And Izuku's like, "Here you go." And All Might's like, "So am I supposed to apply it on the wound or something?" He's like, "Nope, drink that shit." And All Might's like, "No, I'm not risking my life drinking this shit for you." Yeah, from a kid. And Izuku's like, "You're right, it's from a kid. So what harm can it possibly do? And plus, you've seen what I can create, right?" And All Might's like, "I'm trusting my life in you, with you, young Midoriya," because he's learned his name. Izuku's like, "Yeah, okay." All Might drinks it, and instantly he starts to feel a giant pain in his heart. And All Might's like, "What's this pain?" And Izuku's like, "That means it's working." And All Might had his suspicions that Izuku might be a villain or something, so he's like, "You villain, you poisoned me, blah blah blah." And then Izuku's like, "I do not appreciate people making assumptions about me, All Might." And then All Might lifts his shirt, and he sees the black substance cover his whole scar, and his scar is like what do you call it? His scar, the liquid starts retracting back into All Might's body slowly, slowly, slowly. And as it's retracting, so is the scar. The scar is disappearing, and All Might's internal organs are starting to heal up. So by the end, he's 100% healed. He's not buff again, okay? Because it's not how it works. It was muscle deterioration. It wasn't a detransformation, my nigga. So All Might does get a little bit. All Might does get a little bit of his muscle back to the point where he doesn't look completely fucking anorexic. But that's about it. He still looks sort of skinny, So, but All Might's like, what? It's gone. What? He's like, but why am I not in my back in my um muscle form? And Izuku's like, well, nigga, because it was muscle deterioration. That means that all of the muscle tissue had shriveled up and died. So you're gonna need to build muscle if you want to get your build back, bro. And he's like, and it's not gonna be easy because you're a 40-year-old man. Your prime is kind of gone. And All Might's like, oh, okay. And once like my offer still stands, and he's like, my one still stands too. He's like, if you want me to take your quirk, you'll need to let me analyze it. All Might's like, what's the big deal? Like, it's not like you can crack the code or something. Like, the only way it could be transferred is through DNA and shit, and it can't be copied or anything. So, whatever. So, All Might willingly lets Izuku take a blood sample. So that means, eh, I wouldn't say One for All is in the blood, but remnants of the gene that was activated by One for All is in the blood. So that would mean Izuku can analyze One for All. So he analyzes it, and he says, "Okay, I have the genetic makeup. I can copy it." And All Might's like, "What? You can copy a quirk just with the genetic makeup of somebody's DNA?" And Izuku's like, "Yeah, that's some basic ass shit." Because, like, um, basically 2 days ago, Izuku wouldn't have been able to do this. But it's because he's getting Rick's memories back of biology. Because if you didn't know, Rick is absolutely 100%, a billion times smarter than Tony Stark and Stewie combined. So, so he's like, yeah. So I don't need your quirk. And he's like, because I'm not gonna copy your quirk or anything, because first of all, that shit is dangerous as fuck. And All Might's like, what? What do you mean? And Izuku's like, firstly, you need to find somebody that has a great amount of muscle and whose quirk works with the whose quirk works with One for All, because One for All is a very destructive power. It enhances any and everything, even if you have a quirk, it still enhances your strength by a little bit. And if your body isn't accustomed to the power of One for All, which no one's body is accustomed to it, you have to get used to it. It will start to break your body if you use 100%. And All Might's like, you gathered that all from one one bit of research. Nezuko's like, yes. So choose your successor carefully, and I'm gonna begin making my quirk. And All Might's like, what? You can make quirks? And Nezuko's like, obviously, nigga. Like, did you not see me? I told you it's just genetic makeup, bro. I could legit give anybody any quirk. I just need to have the right DNA. And All Might's like, I guess, but don't use that for evil. And he says that like in a weirdly specific way. He's like, don't take people's quirks and keep them for yourself or something like that. And Izuku's like, no, I would never do that shit. He's like, I would never do that shit. You know why? Because that would be too much power and my body would start to break up, like I said. And personally, I'm trying to live long. And All Might's like, oh, okay, so he's just completely self-serving. like, and Izuku's like, yes, yes, I am. And All Might returns, um, which Izuku actually Izuku doesn't say it's none of All Might's business how he met Nezu. He says that him and Nezu played a game of chess that Nezu lost 101 times, and basically I'm gonna say uh, Izuku's what did you call it? Lab is always moving. Like you could have the lab in a certain area one day, and then and then 2 days after that, his lab will be somewhere else. That's how he keeps his identity secret and keeps people from finding out. And he planned to move anyway. Him and his family are moving to the island mansion on the coast of Japan. So they moved there on his private plane, and Demetrius's family always also moved there. You know, and Demetrius is a bit of a stereotype. I'm not gonna lie. He's a black male. His dad went to jail before Demetrius was born. Demetrius, fell into a bad lifestyle, got into a bunch of trouble, went to jail for a year. Because they didn't find out everything he did, but they still bagged him for like for selling drugs, but it wasn't like high. It wasn't like a high crime, so it was only a year and a half. So he got juvenile for half a year, and then normal prison for another year. And so um, it's just his mother, and his two little sisters. Which his first sister is 20. It's 20. His first sister is 20, which she's 26 right now, and she's 6 years younger than him. And then she has the other sister, Naomi, which is Izuku's age, and she's trying out for UA too. But she's like the hope of the hood, and they see her moving out of the hood, you know. But they've helped the community so much that nobody really shelters hate for them moving up in the hierarchy, as long as they keep true to themselves. And Dimitri and his family are gonna keep sending money to the community and shit, just because that's their home and shit. And so, um, and Dimitri's other sister was like, she was down bad, you know. She had a job, but the job was it didn't pay that much. She had an apartment, but the apartment wasn't that big, and it was like infested with roaches and shit. And then one day, she just gets a call from her older brother. Her older brother tells her that um, him and their mother, him and their mother are moving somewhere else, and it's a spacious house, so which they managed to buy with the money that he's earned. So if she wants to come, she can come, you know. And she doesn't like depending on her brother, but at this point, she's like, sure, I'll give it a try. But she thinks it's just gonna be a normal house. And then she goes to Demetrius, but she sees him wearing like some expensive ass clothes, so she thinks he's selling drugs again. And she goes up to him. She's like, "Are you selling drugs again?" And he's like, "Nah." And she's like, "So where did you get all this money?" Which she hasn't seen him. She has not seen this man in 7 years, right? So since uh, since Demetrius met Izuku, that's when what's her name moved out. What's her face? Anyway, so she's like, "Then how did you get this money?" And he's like, "My boss paid me." And she's like, "You have a job?" He's like, "Yes, a very lucrative one as well." And then she's like, "How lucrative?" And he's like, "You'll find out." And so, they move. So, like I was saying, they move into some cabs, right? Which are just normal cabs. And the cabs goes off to the airport, drops them off, and they're like, and she's like, "We're catching a plane?" "Nah, I thought you just said you got a new house." He's like, "Yeah, we did, with my boss." And she's like, "So you're gonna be like his servant or some shit?" And he's like, "No, I do manual labor for him. So like, I carry crates and metal sheets and shit." And she's like, "And that shit pays good for some reason?" He's like, "Yeah, it does." So she gets there. She expects to get on an average plane. And then she sees her brother going to the section where it's the private planes. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, this is the way we going." And their mother ain't surprised, neither is their little sister. And she's like, "Is there something you're not telling me? Like, are we like fleeing the country or some shit?" And he's like, "Nah, like I told you, we're going to live with my boss." And she's like, "Is he some kind of like drug lord or some shit?" And he's like, "No, bro, like stop with the drug shit, bro. You're bringing up the past. There's cops around, bro." And she looks around, she sees like cops staring at them because she mentioned drugs. So they have to get their bags searched now, and he's like, "See what you fucking did, bro? Like, come on." And they search their bags, there's nothing there, and basically the officers apologize, and he's like, "It's okay, don't worry." And they go out, and she sees this beautiful private jet, and she's just questioning like, what the fuck is going on? And until they get in there, and when they get in, um, she just sees another family, and she's like, "I knew you were fucking capping this. There's a whole other family in here." And she's like, and he's like, "Yes, this is my boss's plane. I told you that's my boss." And he doesn't really point in the general direction. He just points in the general direction. He doesn't really point out Izuku. So she thinks it's Izuku's dad. She goes up to Izuku's dad, and she thanks him, and she thanks him and shit. She's like, "Thank you for," she's like, "A word? So, thank you for giving my brother a second chance." Which Izuku's dad is like, "It's not me you should be thanking, young lady." Which Izuku's like on his phone right now, right? And Izuku's like, he's just playing games and shit. And he's like, "It's not me you should be thanking, young lady." And she goes to Izuku's mother, and she's like, "Oh, so it must be you." And um, and Izuku's mother like, "Nope." And she's like, "Then who is it? The only other person here is that little boy." And Inko's like, "Well, that little boy is your brother's boss." And and she looks over, she sees a young black boy with a fucking phone and earphones in, and basically he's just like, he's just reading a webtoon. And she goes up and she's like, "This little brat." In her head, she's like, "This little brat." And basically, she taps him on the shoulder, and he takes off his earphones, and he's like, "Yes, may I help you?" And basically, she's like, "Did you really give my brother a job?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." And she's like, "How though? You're like a toddler." And she says this in like a patronizing way, and Izuku's like, "Hey, yo, Demetrius, get your sis, bro." And Demetrius like, "Yeah, he doesn't like to be called a little kid." And she's like, "But that's what he is. He's just a little kid. I don't get why She's like, "I don't get why everybody is respecting this nigga. He's just a little kid. Like, why are you paying him so much homage? Like, I know for a fact he's not the one that gave you the job, so stop playing with me." And he's like, "Actually," and he's like, "Actually, bitch, he's like, "Actually, bitch, I'm a fucking trillionaire." He's like, "I have $5 trillion. What the fuck do you have?" And he says that like out of nowhere, and everybody's like, "Whoa, whoa, chill out, bro, chill out." And he's like, "Sorry." He says like, "Sorry, I just don't like when people downplay my efforts." And he says that in like a very angry tone. And then he's like, "I'm going to the fucking bathroom." And he goes to the bathroom and puts on his earphones, and he just takes a piss and comes back. And then she's still thinking like, there's no way it's this little nigga. Like, they've got to be taking the piss. And then they get to the mansion, which he sees the mansion is like huge. It's enough to fit 10 families. They get inside, and she's like, and she sees this random butler. So she's like, "You must be the boss or some shit." And the butler's like, "Nah, it's that guy over there." And again they point out Izuku, which the girl's like, "Can everybody stop fucking playing with me?" And he's like, "I'm not fucking playing with you, bitch. Like, I am the richest man in the world." And she's like, "But you're not even a man though. You're a child." And he's like, "Bitch, what the fuck did I say?" And he's screaming. He's like, "Nah, she ain't gonna disrespect me in my fucking house, okay? Like, you can go stay at the fucking lake house or some shit, cause I ain't having this shit." And she thinks the lake house is like some busted up apartment or some shit. And then the butler's like, "Sorry, lady, but I have to direct you out the house. Master's orders." And she's like, "Master's orders? Is this some slavery shit?" And he's like, "No, bro, like, it's just fucking courtesy." He doesn't even like us calling him that. And he's like, "Yes, I don't fucking like you calling me that." And then he looks at Catherine. I'm just gonna call her Catherine. Looks at Catherine. And he's like, "I don't like you in general. Get the fuck out of my house." And basically, Dimitri is just laughing in the background. And she's like, "So you brought me out here just to put me back in the slums?" And he's like, "In the slums, bitch? Have you seen the fucking pool house?" And then basically the butler, Sebastian, leads her to the pool house, which the pool house is just like this another mansion inside of a mansion with a pool, massage tables, all that shit. So she goes inside, she's surprised. She's like, "This shit is the pool house." So so she's like, "Nah, it can't be that kid. That's still playing a prank." She wakes up the next day, she goes out, and she asks every single member of the staff, um who's the boss. And then she gets tired of the adults lying, quote unquote, to her. So he goes up to one of the adults' kids, because kids are like gullible and they'll do anything for money, for real. So she just asks, "Who is the boss of this house? Who is the one with all the money and stuff?" And she's like, "No, I won't tell you." And she's like, "It's the thing. She's like, "It's Izuku Midoriya." And then Catherine's like, "No, tell me the truth, and I'll give you $100." She pulls out $100 because she's living good right now, so she doesn't need this 100. She gives out to the little girl, and she's like, "Firstly, this ain't nothing. Like, I get this from Mr. Izuku all the time, and he is the master of the house, so safe." And she just like runs away. And at this point, Catherine's starting to think, he really is the master of this house, huh? she's like, that nigga really is a fucking trillionaire, like. And Izuku's like, yes, I'm a fucking trillionaire, bitch. Like, what you thought this was? Like, I've known your brother for 7 years. And she's like, what? So he's been working for you for 7 years? And Izuku's like, yup. And I'm gonna say the reason that the girl never got any help from her brother is because she didn't want any. They had like a big falling out, but she finally agreed to come with him this time because she was down bad as fuck. But anyway, Izuku's like, okay, despite you utterly pissing me off, I've cleared all your student debt, all your present debt, and I've uh, I've paid for you to stay at a hotel if you don't enjoy these accommodations. And she's like, what? And she's like, how do you have all this fucking money? And he's like, invest. I invest a lot, bitch. I invest like 100 billion and shit. And she's like, 100 billion? And he's like, yes, my nigga, 100 billion. And he's like, anyway, I have to go to school in some months. He's like, I'm gonna go train with your sister. And basically, they go outside, and she just sees him tap his chest, right? And nothing's happening. So she asks Demetrius, what the fuck is he doing? And then Demetrius like, just fucking wait. And then Izuku's like, armor on, which every single time um the armor goes over Izuku, it scans his whole body for any foreign DNA. Unless Izuku accounted for that DNA, the armor won't come out. So it comes on, covers his whole body, and he looks exactly like this. And then he goes up to the other girl, and she's shooting a bunch of fire at him, which everybody knows that her quirk is powerful as fuck, right? She can burn down like a whole. She could burn down the Amazon forest. I'm kidding. So she could burn down a whole house with like one blast on some Dobby type shit. You know, she can produce the same amount of flames as him, but that's as much the amount of flames that she will produce because her power is destructive as hell. So if she produces any more, it will like destroy the buildings around her and stuff. And Izuku gives all of his family members, which he considers Demetrius's family, a part of his family. So he gives all of them a shot with a fluid inside of it that's black, and that fluid basically protects them. So if they get a huge injury, not like a broken shoulder or anything, if they get an injury that's like life threatening, like